Thank you, Madam Speaker, and to my honourable colleague from South Okanagan, West Kootenay, thank goodness he's in this House to give a sensible speech. I would like to pursue the matter, though, of the market for our product. Why we persist in thinking the only market for bitumen in Canada is to ship it to other countries is baffling, because we do import 700,000 barrels of oil a day to eastern Canada. And to correct my honourable colleague of the Conservative benches, if Energy East had been built, it wouldn't have taken diluted bitumen to be processed in refineries in Atlantic Canada, because there aren't any refineries in Atlantic Canada that process bitumen. None of them have upgraders, and Irving Oil specifically said they did not intend to build an upgrader. Irving Oil is the only refinery in this country that processes Saudi oil because it's the cheapest. And as long as it remains the cheapest, that's what the Irvings will do. So I want to ask my honourable colleague if he doesn't think there's a market in Canada for upgrading and refining Alberta bitumen, brand it Fort Mac Strong, sell it across this country. No one would put Saudi oil in their tank.
The member for South Okanagan, West Kootenay.
Well, thank you, Madam Speaker, and I'd like to thank the member from Saanich Gulf Islands for that question. And she's right, of course. We had, when I'm on the Natural Resources Committee, we had Irving before us a year ago or so, and asked them point blank, you know, if Energy East was at Tidewater in New Brunswick now, would you build those refineries or upgraders? And they said, I don't know. It would depend on the world market situation. So, yes, you know, I think building refineries and upgraders in Canada would solve several problems. It would create jobs. If you want to create jobs in Alberta, that's a great way to do it. If you want to spend $4.5 billion, you know, helping the oil industry, if that's really what you want to do, then, you know, you might want to put in government money to build an oil upgrader refinery. You could provide incentives for companies to do just that. As I said, it would not only allow us to sell our own oil at world prices, it would allow us to ship it at volumes in the pipelines, because it's only half the volume of the bitumen that we ship.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to return to my friend's comments on the environmental assessment process. She and I have in common that we were environmental lawyers for a long time. It's my recollection that only 2 projects in the history of Canada were ever turned down under the old process that was actually a good process that was destroyed in 2012. Fish Lake, Piteseco Mines, and the Digby Neck Quarry in Nova Scotia. So the Harper Conservatives thought that the environmental assessment process slowed down projects. In fact, I want to know if she agrees with me that the old process worked to improve projects as an aspect of planning.
The brief answer from the member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I'd like to thank the honourable member for her comment. She's 100% true. If the Conservative government had not downgraded that process, they probably could have proceeded through a process that was generally considered to be a credible, useful process right around the world. Instead, they eviscerated a process and they caused all this downturn in the economy.
Honourable member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And to my honourable friend from Calgary, Mindapore, there was one part of her speech with which I completely agreed, which was the experience of the Kinder Morgan pipeline is the worst horror movie you can imagine, and it just keeps getting worse. But I do want to put in her mind this notion, because I followed the process carefully. I was an intervener, and every single step that led to the Federal Court of Appeal quashing that permit was virtually in concrete before the election, because the NEB process was set up under the C-38 rules. The process was moving in the direction. The advice from the NEB panel wouldn't have been different if Stephen Harper had still been Prime Minister, and I doubt that the cabinet under Harper would have done anything differently than what the cabinet under the current Prime Minister did, which was ignore the flaws and approve the pipeline.
Member for Calgary Midnaport.
Well, I thank my colleague very much for that question. You know what, though, Mr. Speaker, I genuinely believe in my heart of hearts, you know, everything might have been in place, but the reality is that there are no shovels in the ground. There are no sight of any shovels in the ground. You know, it was a failure in the consultation process. Just again, once again, complete incompetence on the part of the government, and I just fail to believe that our government, based upon as I mentioned, our successful track record of the 4 pipelines that I indicated would not have been successful in that venture. So I feel that strongly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.